I never thought I'd be the kind of man to get played. Not me, I wasn't soft, wasn't clueless, wasn't the type to sit around while some woman disrespected me. But life has a funny way of testing a man's patience, pushing him to the edge, just to see if he'll break or burn everything down before it gets that far. Her name was Lauren, blonde, long legs, curves that could make a priest reconsider his vows. She had this way of looking at me like I was the only man in the world. Like I was the one thing she truly wanted. Maybe that's why I let my guard down. Maybe that's why I let her in when I should have known. Better I met her 5 years ago at a bar back when I still had the patience to entertain small talk she was sipping on, something expensive pretending to. Ignore the guys circling her like vultures, but when I walked past, she locked eyes with me, challenging, daring. I took that dare it wasn't in long before she was mine, or at least that's what I thought. We got married in Vegas, half drunk, reckless like all. The best mistakes in life. It made good money, ran my own business, handled things the way a man should. She never had to worry about anything. I gave her the house, the car, the kind of life most women would kill for, and for a while she played the perfect wife, sweet, loyal, insatiable. But some women don't know how to be satisfied. Some women look at everything you give them and still want more. It started with little things, late nights out with her friends, a new gym membership even though she never worked, out a day in her life. A sudden obsession with her phone, always turned face down on the table. I saw it all. I wasn't stupid. Then one night she sat across from me at the dinner table, twirling her wine glass between her fingers, lips curling into that same daring smirk she had when we first met. I need to tell you something. I leaned back in my chair, waiting. I'll be seeing another man for a while, she said. Just like that. No shame, no hesitation. We'll still make love, of course, but I'll also be with other guys. I stared at her, just stared. Not because I was shocked. No, I'd been expecting something like this. I stared because I was deciding what kind of man I was going to be in that moment. She tilted her head, watching me, like shut hot. I'd argue, maybe, ask her why I didn't. I just smiled, a slow, easy smile that must have made her think I was okay with it. All right, I said, if that's what you want. And that was the end of the conversation. She went to bed that night. Smug, probably thinking she'd won something, probably thinking I'd accepted it. She had no idea what was coming. Lauren didn't just take my love for granted, she took my whole life and acted like it was hers to ruin. I grew up rough, no silver spoon, no safety nets, just fists and fire. My old man was a bastard, drunk, angry, the kind that took his failures out on his kid. I learned early that the world didn't give a damn about fairness. You either took what was yours or got trampled under the boots of those who would. By 16, I was already fighting, bare-knuckle, underground, cash in hand. By the end of the night, I didn't fight for sport. I fought to survive. Every swing of my fist was another step away from the life I was born into, and I didn't lose. Ever that kind of life shapes a man, makes him hard, makes him sharp. By the time I hit my 20s, I had built something from nothing. My own business, security, high-end, the kind of work where men like me thrived. I protected the rich from the kind of men I used to be, made a fortune doing it. Then came Lauren. She wasn't like the women I usually dealt with. She didn't flinch when I spoke, didn't back down when I pushed. She was fire wrapped in silk, and I mistook that fire for passion instead of what it really was, destruction waiting to happen. We married fast, too fast. One night in Vegas, too much whiskey. And suddenly she had my last name, but I didn't regret it, not. Then she was mine, and I took care of what was mine. And when we had our son James, my whole world shifted. I didn't just fight for myself. Anymore, I fought for him. James was my blood, my legacy. I taught him to be strong, to stand tall, to never let the world break him the way it had tried to break me. Every lesson I learned the hard way, I gave to him freely. I worked my H off to make. Sure, he'd never know the hunger, the fear, the desperation I grew up with. And then Lauren burned it all to the ground. The cheating, that was bad enough, but what she did after that was the real betrayal. The night after she told me she'd be seeing other men. She came home late thinking everything was the same. She walked in heels, clicking against the floor, expecting to find me waiting like a loyal dog. But the house was empty completely. Not just my things, everything. The furniture, the electronics, the safe in the office where I kept cash, even the ashen food in the fridge. I took it all. She didn't just lose me that night. She lost everything I ever gave her, and James, he was already gone. I picked him up from school before she even realized what was happening. She wanted to sleep around fine, but she wasn't doing it in my house, on my dime with my son under the same roof. She called me screaming. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the texts, the threats, the begging. Nothing then, the next day she showed up at my office, stormed in like a woman scorned, slamming her hands on my desk, eyes wild. What the did you do? I leaned back in my chair, calm, collected. Exactly what you wanted, sweetheart. You said you'd be seeing other men, so I made sure you had all the free time in the world to do it. Her face twisted red with rage. You took my son, our son, I corrected, and I'm the only one acting like a parent. She came at me then, fingernails like claws ready to scratch, to hurt. I caught her wrists before she could even touch me, twisted them just enough to make her wince. I don't hit women, I said, voice low, steady. But if you try that SS again, I won't be so gentle. She still breathing hard, eyes flickering with something, fear maybe, or understanding. I let go. She staggered back, rubbing her wrists. You can't do this. I'll take you to court. I smirked, good luck. I've got the best lawyer money can buy. And you've got nothing. And that was it. She wanted to be free now. She was no home, no family, no son. Just an empty house and a bed she'd have to share with every man she thought was worth losing it all for. Lauren wasn't stupid, selfish, yes, a liar, absolutely, but stupid. Number, she knew exactly what she was doing when she sat across from me that night, swirling her wine casually, telling me she'd be seeing other men. She had expected anger, a fight, a heated argument, where she could twist the narrative, make herself the victim, maybe even manipulate me into some twisted open marriage bulls. Instead, I gave her nothing. I took everything, and that's when I learned something dangerous about her. She wasn't the kind of woman to accept defeat. 4 weeks after I left, I heard nothing. No calls, no texts. Just silence, almost like she had disappeared. I should have known better. I should have known she was planning something Lauren had always been good at, getting what she wanted before me. She was a girl who knew how to play the game, using her looks, her charm, her body to climb her way through life. She knew exactly how to manipulate men, how to make them feel powerful while quietly pulling the strings. But with me, she had no control, and that's why she did it. She didn't cheat because she was unsatisfied. She cheated because she wanted to prove something to herself, that no man, not even me, could ever own her. And when I took everything, I didn't just humiliate her. I destroyed the illusion she had built in her mind. So she did what any cornered animal does. She struck back, and she made it nuclear the first sign it started, with something small. A call from my lawyer. Your accounts, he said. Vo tight, they've been frozen. What? My grip tightened around my phone, all of them. All of them. I didn't need to ask why. Lauren, I had locked her out of my finances before I left Madesher. She didn't have a single cent to her name, but she had found a way to fight back. Turns out she had been planning this for a long time, long before she ever told me about the other men while I was running my business making. Sure, she never had to lift a damn finger. She had been laying the groundwork for her revenge. Fake accusations, lies, a carefully crafted story about financial abuse, emotional control, and of course the ultimate dagger, claims that I was a danger to Orson. I laughed when I first heard it, a bitter, disbelieving laugh. She can't win. This, I said. My lawyer didn't laugh. She doesn't need to win. She just needs to drag this out long enough to ruin you, and she did. The betrayal. The next hit came fast. My business, the company I built from the ground up, was suddenly under investigation. False claims, lawsuits, clients pulling out, not wanting to be associated with a man with a history of domestic issues. My own employees started looking at me differently. Even the ones who had been with me for years, who knew me, started to hesitate. That's when I realized just how deep Lauren's manipulation went. She had been planning this for months, and she had help not from just any man. No, that would have been too easy, too predictable. She went for someone close, someone. It rusted my best friend Mark, a guy I had known since my street fighting days, a guy who had been by my side through everything, who I brought into my business, made him my right-hand man, gave him a car future, and all along he had been my wife behind my back. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore, it was war. And if Lauren thought she had won, she had no idea what was coming. I was losing everything. My business was under investigation. My bank accounts were frozen. My reputation was in the gutter. Dread through the mud by the woman I once called my wife, but the worst part, the part that made my blood boil hotter than hell itself, she was coming for my son. Lauren wasn't satisfied with taking my money, my name, my company. No, that wasn't enough. She wanted to take James from me too. She wanted to rip the last piece of my soul out and watch me bleed. And she wasn't doing it alone. She'd Mark, my so-called best friend, Theman, I trusted more than anyone. The man who had eaten at my table, held my son, stood beside me like a brother. And all along he had been feuding my wife behind my back, whispering in her ear, helping her plot my downfall. But the real betrayal, the one that felt like a knife buried so deep in my back I could still taste the steel. Mark wasn't just sleeping with Lauren, he was claiming James as his own. The court papers hit me like a freight train petition for sole custody. Lauren and Mark standing together claiming I was unfit, that I was a danger, that I had a violent past. And they had evidence, fabricated police reports, witness statements from people I didn't even know, photos of bruises on Lauren's arms, bruises she probably gave herself just to make it look real. And Mark, that piece of S, had the audacity to say he had been a father figure to James, that he was better suited to raise my son. I saw red. I didn't just want revenge, I wanted annihilation. The first move I knew, one thing. If I played by the rules, I would lose. Lauren had the courts, she had the lies, she had Mark. So I didn't play by the rules, I played by my rules first. It needed to send a message. Something that would make them realize I wasn't a man they could bury. So I went for Mark first. It was easy. Too easy. Mark had gotten comfortable thinking I was too busy fighting legal battles to come after him. He was still working out at the same gym, still walking around like aching, like he hadn't just betrayed the only real friend he ever had. That night, he walked into the parking lot alone, and I was waiting. I let him see me first, let him register what was about to happen, the way his face drained of color. That was the first win of the night. "Hey, man," he stammered, holding up his hands like that was going to do anything. "Listen, I hit him before he could finish one punch, just one, a hard straight shot to the jaw. His skull cracked against the pavement, and he went down like a sack of bricks. He tried to crawl away, but I wasn't finished." It crouched beside him, grabbed his hair, and made him look at me. "You think you can take my son?" My voice was calm, controlled. "You think you can fant my wife and walk away like nothing happened?" He whimpered something. Blood ran from his nose, dripping onto the asphalt. I didn't care. I leaned in close. "You're going to drop that custody case." His swollen lips trembled. I can't. It's Lauren. I grabbed his throat, not tight enough to choke, just tight enough to remind him who the FM I was. You're going to drop that case," I repeated, "and then you're going to disappear, because if I see you again, Mark, I won't stop at a broken jaw." I let go. He coughed, gasped, scrambled to his feet like a wounded rat. "You're a psycho," he spat. "I just smiled. You have no idea." He ran, and just like that, my best friend, the man who thought he could steal my family, became a ghost. The final move. Lauren was next. I could have done the same to her, could have waited for her in some dark parking lot, let her feel the same fear I did when she tried to take my son, but not. That was too easy. Lauren's real weakness wasn't pain, it was power. She thrived on control, on being the one pulling the strings. So I did the one thing she never expected. I ruined her first. I exposed everything. The affair, the fake police reports, the fabricated abuse claims. I had private investigators dig up every dirty little secret she tried to bury, and then I made sure the world knew her family, her friends, the court, her job. All of them got front row seats to her downfall. She lost credibility, lost support, lost the golden image she spent years building. And then when she was their lowest, when she had nowhere left to turn, I took James legally. Permanently, the judge saw through. Her lies saw the fake bruises, the contradictions in her story. The case collapsed like a house of cards, and when the final ruling came down, full custody mine, Lauren stood in the courtroom that day, stunned, shaking, Shettried to fight it, screamed, cried, begged. But I didn't even look at her because Lauren wasn't my problem anymore. She was nothing, and I had won. I didn't hear from Lauren after that, not for weeks, not for months. After the judge handed me full custody of James and dismissed her lies, she vanished. No more texts, no more threats, no more crocodile tears begging for another chance. I'd broken her in a way no man ever had before, but I knew Lauren. She wasn't the type to accept defeat. So when I got home late one night and saw my front door slightly open, I wasn't surprised. I stepped inside, slow, careful. The house was dark, but I could smell something faint in the air, perfume, her perfume. I locked the door behind me. If she was here, she wasn't leaving. The way she came in, a shadow moved in, the hallway. Then her voice software, almost pleading. I just wanted to see him. I exhaled through my nose, rolling my shoulders, cracking my knuckles. James isn't here. Silence. Then she stepped into the dim light of the kitchen. She looked different, gaunt makeup, smeared blonde hair, tangled mess, like she hadn't brushed it in days. This wasn't the Lauren who used to strut around like a queen. This was a woman on the edge. She clutched something in her hands, a folded piece of paper. I wrote him a letter, she said, quietly. Just let him read it. I didn't move, didn't take it. He doesn't need anything from you, I said. Her eyes flickered. Something dark, flashing behind them. You took everything from me. It ilted my head. You took it from yourself. She swallowed, lips trembling. I almost believed she was broken, almost, but then she smiled, and I knew this wasn't over. The final betrayal. Lauren didn't break into my house just to hand me a letter. She wanted to see if she still had power, if she could rattle me, get inside my head, make me react, but I wasn't that man anymore. She tried a different approach. The victim, I loved you, she whispered. I almost laughed. No, oh. You loved control, and when you lost it, you lost your mind. Her nails curled into fists. For the first time she looked. Small, weak-like, she realized too late that she had lost everything. And then the real reason she was here slipped from her lips. Do you think this is over? Her voice was barely above a whisper. You think taking my son, my life, my reputation was enough? I stared at her. It's over. Lauren? She shook, her head smiling that broken, desperate smile. No, baby, she licked her lips. It's just beginning. And that's when I noticed the red light faint blinking, a hidden camera. My eyes flicked to the corner of the room. Just barely. I could see it nestled between the cabinets, its lens glinting under the low light. I turned back to Lauren. She was waiting. Watching, she wanted me to react. She wanted me to lose control, roll, to grab her, to push her to do anything that could be. Twisted into evidence, the final trap. I smiled. You should go, Lauren. Her smile faltered. What? I stepped closer. Note aggressive, just enough to let her feel the shift in the air. You broke in here, set up a camera, and thought you could bait me, I murmured, and the best part, you think I'm stupid enough to fall for it. The breathing hitched. I leaned in just enough to let my words scrape against her ear. You lost, sweetheart. Go home. Her whole body stiffened. I could feel Therage shaking through her. She wanted. Made a snap. She wanted a reaction so badly, but I gave her nothing. She stumbled. Back eyes, wild, lips parted like she wanted to say something. Then, without another word, she turned and ran. The door slammed behind her. I waited, listened, and then I walked too. The cabinet plucked the hidden camera from its spot and crushed it between my fingers. Checkmate Lauren was done, she just didn't know it yet. Lauren was finished, she just hadn't accepted it, yet her attempts to ruin me had failed. Her plan to take James was dead in the water. Mark, he had disappeared too afraid to show his face again, and now after her pathetic little stunt with the hidden camera, she had no cards left to play. But I wasn't stupid enough to think she'd give up a woman like Lauren doesn't. Fade quietly, so I waited. I kept my guard up, watched. My back had my lawyers watching, hers I even hired private security to keep an eye on James at school just in case. And then a week later she made her last move, the one she thought would destroy me. The last betrayal. It was 2 a.m. when my phone buzzed a blocked number. I answered expecting another one of her drunken voicemails, but it wasn't her. It was a cop. Mr. Hayes, the voice on the other end, said, "This is Detective Owens with the NYPD. We need you to come down to the station." If round why. There was a pause. It's about Lauren. Something in my gut tightened. I grabbed my keys and left the final Lee. When I got to the station, they took me into a cold, sterile interrogation room. 2 detectives sat across from me, faces blank. One of them slid a folder across. The table inside were pictures. Lauren bruised, beaten cuts along her arms. Her lips split open, all fake, all staged, but the accusation attempted murder. The room felt too small, too quiet, she's claiming. "You broke into her apartment and attacked her," the detective said, watching. "My face closely says you threatened to kill her." I exhaled slowly. Lauren's last desperate move. I leaned back in my chair, and do you believe her? The detective hesitated then. The door opened. My lawyer walked in, and just like that, the game ended. The final revenge. Lauren's story didn't hold. She had no evidence, no witnesses, and the biggest problem she had forgotten about, the security camera in her own damn building. The footage showed everything, her walking into her apartment alone. No struggle. No forced entry, no sign of meanywhere, just her hurting herself, staging the entire thing. When the detectives saw it, they had no choice. Lauren wasn't the victim. She was the criminal, And the last time I saw her, she was sitting in a courtroom, wrists and cuffs, eyes hollow. The judge read the charges, false accusations, breaking and entering, attempted fraud. She didn't look at me, didn't speak, because she knew she'd lost, and me, I walked out of that courtroom with James beside me. Free Lauren was nothing now, just a bad memory, and I was finally done with her.